Hello, everyone. I'm Sally. Welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you. This session is a part of our ongoing program in our WhatsApp study group, number 25, and Exploring Tibetan Buddhism. And we also have our YouTube channels, Tibetan Buddhist Study and Wisdom for a Happy Life. Whether you joined through these groups or discovered us elsewhere, we are very glad you're here. Today, we'll explore a question that has accompanied humanity across all cultures and times. Rebirth, what continues? We approach this question at the intersection of modern science, Buddhist teachings, and the logic of so-called black swans. Please keep one thing in mind from the start. This is not a debate. This is an exploration. Before we begin, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to our precious teachers, the great Jigme Ponto Rinpoche, Khenpo Sodaji Rinpoche, and Khenpo Soten Rodo Rinpoche. We honor them along with all lineage masters whose wisdom support and guide our exploration today. And to our Dharma friends, all of you here, thank you for your steady encouragement and for walking to this path together. Finally, we are grateful for the creators of the images used in this presentation. All images are shared for non-commercial Dharma learning purposes only. If there are any copyright concerns, please feel free to contact us. So here's the roadmap for our journey today. First, the human puzzle that eventually touches every life. Second, the modern scientific view of consciousness. Third, the idea of black swans, unexpected findings that challenging what we think we know. Fourth, scientific report on consciousness that function as black swans. Fifth, karma, the directing principle. And sixth, freedom, the Buddhist path of wisdom and compassion. And finally, after all this, we will open the space for your questions and reflections. It may sound like a long journey, but as the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So let's set our mind and take that first step together. We begin with something familiar. I think you all seen this picture before. This image reflects the passage of human life, birth, growth, aging, and death. And during life, our body and consciousness work together. And for a meaningful human life, both need care and balance between these two. And this is how many of us understand life today, as a straight line, beginning at a single point and ending at another. But what lies beyond these 2 points? What exists before birth and come after death? For many people, these questions remain undefined, unexplored, or quietly set aside. So these unexplored spaces give rise to an eternal puzzle, one that eventually visits every one of us. What happens when the body stops? We can see a body decay after death. That part is visible and certain. But do we really end at the grave? Does our story truly end there? What about our invisible consciousness, our thought, memories, and sense of being? Does something continue? And if something does continue, how does that transition happen? These are the questions we are here to discuss today. Even when we don't arrive at final answer, we can examine each piece carefully, calmly, and with curiosity. So here is the contemporary view of the scientific view of consciousness. Neuroscience has made remarkable advances. Currently, scientific research estimated the human brain contains 86 billion neurons here in this little brain, organized into extraordinary complex network. Explains all our human experience. Our thought, emotions, and awareness are closely correlated with the physical, measurable, and biological process in the brain. Researchers have also identified specific brain regions, here highlighted as different colors. Specific damage produce specific functional changes. For example, injury to this region, the light pink region, can repel healing, demonstrating a clear relationship between brain structure and mental function. Based on findings like this, most scientists define consciousness as arising from neurons communicating with one another via electrical and chemical signals. Here is a live neuron communication, a bright signal hopping across the synaptic gap between two neurons. And here's one neuron here. In this view, when we think we are experiencing the result of trillions of such electrical spikes zapping through numerous neuronal networks. So this view is called materialism, the idea that consciousness is produced by the brain. Within this framework, when the brain stops functioning, consciousness is believed to stop as well. There is no more perception, no thought, no emotion. The common analogy is a candle. When the candle is blown out, the light disappears. There's no more flame, no more illumination. In the same way, death is often defined as consciousness being extinguished. For many people, this explanation feels logical, simple, and complete. Do you think that way? Anyway, so on the other hand, there is a question that refuses to disappear. Can consciousness exist without the brain? For some people, let's see, I think we have, okay. There is uncertain undercurrent beneath all this, within this confidence. Across cultures and through history, nearly all major faiths have said something transcends the body. Christianity and Islam speak of eternal soul that continue after death, entering heaven or hell. Hinduism speaks of reincarnation, of an unchanging soul. It teaches that a permanent this soul leaves the body at death and is reborn into another form. Buddhism also speaks of continuity, but it rejects the idea of a permanent soul. Instead, it describes an ever-changing stream of consciousness. When this mental continuum flows into a new body or new life, Buddhism calls this rebirth. And this certainty is not limited to religion. Some of the world's greatest scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, also express discomfort with strict materialism. For example, John Eccles, a neurologist, openly stated that materialism cannot explain subjective experiences. And Max Planck, the founder of quantum theory, said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." So here we are, standing at the crossroad. On the one side is standard view. When the brain dies, consciousness dies. On the other side is a question that refuses to disappear. Can consciousness exist without the brain? For some people, even asking this question seems unnecessary. But if consciousness is not merely a byproduct of the brain, then rebirth moves from myth into possibilities. And this is exactly the idea of Black Swan enters our discussion. So here's topic 3, excuse me. Topic 3, the Black Swan and unexpected findings. For centuries in Europe, every swan people had seen was white. So Europeans confidently conclude all swans are white. A black swan was not just unlikely, it was considered impossible. Then, in 1697, European explorers arrived in Australia, and for the first time, they saw black swans. In that single moment, centuries of certainty collapsed. No more all white swans are white. From this, the term black swans came to mean unexpected observations with major consequence. Seeing thousands of white swans does not prove that black swan cannot exist. This teaches us something essential about knowledge. We learned in science, a theory does not need many contradictions to fail. One verified exception is enough to force a re-examination. So in today's discussion, the white swans represent a common assumption. Consciousness requires a functional brain. But what if there are black swans, real documented medical cases that do not fit this rule? We'll examine two types of these cases. One, structure, consciousness with very little brain tissue. Second, functional, consciousness with no measurable brain activity. Let's look at this calmly, with curiosity, not with conclusion. First, let's consider the structure cases. Normally, an intact brain is required for the complex thinking and perceptions. Yet, rare exceptions have been documented in medical journals. In 1980, the journal Science published a paper by neurologist Dr. John Lauber titled Is your brain really necessary? It described a university student with almost no brain tissue, only a thin layer of cortex remained. And yet, he had IQ of 126, the genius level, and graduated with top honors in mathematics. Later, in 2007, the Lancet, excuse me? Okay. The Lancet reported a man with 90% brain loss. Despite this, he lived a normal life as a working adult and father. In both cases, a very small amount of brain tissue supported functional intelligence. Next, let's turn to the functional case, consciousness during a flat EEG. This brings us to the medical case of Pen Brenner. She was a folk song singer. At age 35, Pen underwent a procedure called standstill surgery to remove a dangerous aneurysm buried deep in the brain stem. First, she was placed under deep anesthesia. Then her body temperature lowered to 15.5 Celsius. All her blood was drained from her brain. Her heart stopped. Her EEG became completely flat, showing zero measurable brain activity. Her eyes were tapped shut. Her ears were sealed with special plugs emitting loud clicks. By every medical definition, Pen's brain was off. She was clinically dead. Under such conditions, we would expect total darkness, no experience at all. But instead, Pen reported something extraordinary. She described leaving her body and observing the surgery from above. After revival, she accurately described the operation room, and he described the surgery saw, saying it looks like a dentist drill, and even noticed a small dent in it. She also recorded a conversation between surgeons. A woman said, "We have a problem. Her arteries were too small." A man replied, "Try the other side." Medical record later confirmed every detail. If the brain creates consciousness in the way a generator creates electricity, then when the generator is off, the light should be out. Yet, Pen's awareness was not dimmer. It was clear, wider, even 360 degrees. So we are left with a quiet but profound question. What if the brain does not produce consciousness, but instead it functions in other ways? But some may even argue that Pen Renner may be simply an isolated and unusual case. But is she? To see whether this is the part of broader patterns, we turn to the research of Dutch cardiologist Dr. Van Lommel. In 2001, the prestigious medical journal, The Lancet, published its prospective study of 344 patients who survived cardiac arrest. During their period of clinical death, no measurable brain activity was recorded. Yet, 18% of these patients reported clear, structural, near-death experience. Like Pen Renner, some described events in the hospital environment, that were later verified by medical staff. The study concluded that this experience cannot be adequately explained by lack of oxygen, medication, or fear of the death. This led to a provocative possibility that consciousness may not depend entirely on a functional brain. To explore this puzzle, Dr. Romeo proposed an analogy. The brain may not produce consciousness, but receive it, like a radio receiving the music signal. Let's visualize this using this radio analogy. In this model, consciousness, like the music, being broadcast, while the brain and body function as a radio receiver. When a radio breaks, it stops playing the music, but the music broadcast does not disappear. The signal continues to exist independent of the particular radio. In a similar way, physical death may be understood as the breakdown of the receiver. The signal, consciousness, is not destroyed. It simply no longer expressed through that body. Just as a sound still exists even if our phone breaks, consciousness may continue even when brain no longer functions. Then that signal may eventually connect with a new receiver, a new body, through which it expresses itself again. This continuity is what the Buddhist tradition called rebirth. To move from philosophical into systematic investigation, we now turn to the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, a respected psychiatrist and former chair of psychiatry at University of Virginia. For over 40 years, Dr. Stevenson traveled across cultures and continents to investigate more than 2,500 cases of children who spontaneously remembered a previous life. He did not simply collect stories. He compiled over 32,000 pages of forensic field notes and documents. His landmark books, Reincarnation and Biology, spanning more than 2,600 pages, is one of the most extensive scientific investigations into the etiology of birthmark and birth defect. Now let's look at these cases. In Dr. Stevenson's research, approximately 35% of the children who spontaneously remember past life were born with birthmarks or congenital deformities. Here are one of the cases. On the left is the case of Saxena, born with a cluster of small birthmarks on his chest. As a child, he recalled being a man who died from a shotgun wound to the chest. When Dr. Stevenson obtained the autopsy report, the coroner's drawing of the fatal wound closely matches the placement, size, and patterns of Saxena's birthmark. The corresponding was so precise that it raised a question. Could severe trauma leave a physical imprint on Saxena's birthmark? Or in that appear in a later body? Here, let's look at another case on the left. On the right, sorry. We see a girl born with a ring-shaped birthmark encircling her head. She recalls being a man who was struck on the head with a baseball bat and later died. Medical records revealed that the surgeon had performed emergency craniotomy, is a circular incision to open the skull on the head. So the shape of the location of the girl's birthmark closely resembled that surgical incision. These two cases suggest that the experience of fatal wound from a deceased person can influence the embryo of later born baby and leave similar birthmark in the new body. Such cases might be dismissed as a coincidence. However, there are more similar cases in Dr. Stevens' documents. Explaining them by simple statistics may not be enough. What do these physical marks suggest? They function like a forensic stamps, permanent nonverbal indicator present from birth. Unlike the spoken memories, which can change or be influenced by suggestion, these marks are fixed and visible and verifiable by forensic data. Notably, they often correspond to sudden violence or traumatic death. Such cases cannot be fully explained by genetics, the prenatal environment, or known biological mechanism. Dr. Stevenson proposed the need for a third factor. This third factor lies beyond hereditary and environment and may help explain certain unusual links between identity, memory, and the body. Despite the scope of his findings, Dr. Stevenson remained a careful and a restrained scientist. He never claimed to have proven rebirth in an absolute sense. His conclusion was measured, and precise. Reincarnation is not the best, even though not the only explanation for the stronger cases we have investigated. What do these physical masks suggest? They work like, no, sorry, I think we did talk about that. Next, we turn to the case of Bruce Kelly, a modern report from Westworld that introduced different level of verification. This case is important for several reasons. First, it occurred in the United States in the 1990s, and all the testimony was recorded in native English, eliminating concerns about translation or interpretation. Second, it happened in a culture where belief in rebirth is not common, thus reducing biases from prior belief in rebirth. Third, and most importantly, this case is data-driven and relies upon verifiable details, not from storytelling. Bruce provided specific technical information about a World War II submarine, including his internal layout and the name of fellow sailor. So the submarine shredder, the Bruce Kelly case. Bruce Kelly is a pseudonym, was a successful businessman, yet his life was marked by unexplained suffering. From early childhood, he experienced an intense fear of water, hydrophobia, and severe claustrophobia, fear of enclosed space, and he had chronic chest pain for which physical causes could not be found. During the regression therapy with Dr. Rick Brown, Bruce began to report memory linked to a past identity. James Edward Johnson, a U.S. Navy sailor during World War II. He served in U.S. submarine USS Shark, SS-175. And he died on February 11th, 1944, when the submarine was sunk in the Pacific Ocean. While Bruce recounted the sensory detail as the submarine was sinking, he was in terror, as if he was experiencing again the ocean water rushing in, the struggle to breathe, and crushing pressure on his chest when the steel cabin caved in. This remembered sensation closed Bruce's lifelong fear of water, closer space, and chest pain. Such buried traumas in James Johnson might have cast a long shadow across his present life as Bruce. The strength of this case lies in what follows. When investigators invest U.S. Navy record, they confirmed that the USS Shark SS-134 was sunk on February 11, 1942, the exact date Bruce had reported. The manifest official record lists a sailor named James Edward Johnson, who died in that accident. Bruce also correctly identified landmarks and family details from Johnson's small hometown in Alabama, places Bruce had never visited and had no known connection. Most importantly, this investigation took before the internet era, and the relevant military file had been sealed since 1940 and they were not easily accessible to the public. Taken together, these elements from the unusual pattern suggesting the continuation of consciousness. They function like black swans, challenging the boundary of a single lifetime. Excuse me. So what does Bruce Kelly's case suggest? It raises the possibility that certain fears, emotional patterns, and even physical pain and sensations may be residual traces of unresolved trauma, perhaps not limited to a single life. In Bruce's case, and there is power of recognition, in Bruce's case, once he recognized that his chest pain, his claustrophobia, and his fear of water were connected to a different person and a different historical context, his symptoms reportedly resolved. This suggests that continuity is not merely a philosophical idea. It may open a way for treating unexplained psychological and physiological conditions. It may even shed light on those moments in daily life that seems irrational, such as a feeling of strong attraction or repulsion towards someone we have just met without clear reason. Where do these gut feelings come from? Could they reflect deep patterns whose origin are not confined to this life alone? So, to close this section, we return to the logic of black swans. For centuries, the claim all swans are white and black swans are impossible was considered universal truth. But the observation of one black swan changed that understanding forever. Today, strict materialism makes a similar claim. Rebirth is impossible because consciousness cannot exist without a function plan. Yet, we have examined several well-documented cases that challenging this assumption, from Penn Reynolds' flat EEG experience to Dr. Lomier's cardiac arrest study to the physical stamps documented by Dr. Stevenson and the historical verified record in Bruce Kelly's case. These are black swans, observations that do not fit neatly into dominant model. Of course, they do not force a final conclusion. They simply invite openness. To dismiss rebirth outright may be scientifically premature. Reality may be larger, deeper, and more intricate than our current framework can fully explain. Next, we move to topic 5, karma, the directing principle. If we are open, even provisionally, to the possibility that consciousness continues beyond death, a vital question naturally arises. What determines where it goes? Where will it lead? Is it random? Is it accidental? Or is there an underlying logic at work? In Buddhism, that principle is called karma. The Buddha stated, the world arises from karma. Joy and suffering are drawn by karma. In this view, karma is not abstract, not mystical, and not divine judgment. It is something very direct. Karma is the architect of experience. To understand rebirth, we must understand how karma works. In Buddhism, karma literally means intentional action. The law of karma is certain, just as specific seeds produce a specific plant. Virtuous action ripens as happiness, and non-virtuous action ripens as suffering. The entire process is powered by intention. Every thought, every word, and every deed plant a karmic seeds. So, where do they go? Where do seeds go? They are stored in what Buddhism called storehouse consciousness, alaya vijnana. The seeds do not disappear, they remain dormant until the right condition arise, and then they ripen. In the West, karma is often misunderstood as luck, fate, or punishment. But in Buddhism, karma is not punishment. It is a consequence. It is about causes producing corresponding result. Think of gravity. Gravity does not punish you for dropping a glass. The glass breaks because of a natural law. Karma works the same way. It is not random, and it is not decided by higher beings. It is a neutral process of causes and effect, created by our own intention and action. This actually is very empowering. We are not helpless, passive victims of fate. We are the active creator, participant. By changing our intention today, we are already shaping our future. Karma also explains our deepest relationship, those of intense love and intense conflict. The Surangara Sutra says, you cherish my heart, I adore your form. Through such causes and conditions, for hundreds of thousands of eons, we remain entangled. Attachment creates karmic knots. These bonds are not destiny, they are unresolved cause, waiting to be understood and released. The same sutra continues. You owe my life, I repay your debt. So such causes conditions for hundreds and thousands eons, we remain in a cycle of birth and death. If we cling to resentment, to debts, or to revenge, we return again and again to settle the same account. Our deepest desires, our deepest hatred, and our most ingrained habit keep the cycle turning. A famous Tibetan metaphor explains this simply. The body is a guest house. Consciousness is a traveler just passing through. What the traveler carries onward are not possessions, but habit and seeds of mind collected along the way. The real life offers a physical map of this process. At the center are the three poisons: attachment, aversion, and ignorance. They are the engine that keeps the wheel turning. This image is not about punishment. It's not about judgment either. It shows how our mind creates its own words. The great master Chandrakirti explained this with the image of water wheel. First, a self is grasped, then positions are grasped, then phenomena are grasped, like a wheel turning without freedom. Pastor Rinpoche later offered another image. Sentient beings are like bees trapped inside a sealed jar, moving up and down, going back and forth, but rarely finding the exit. So, where does this wheel take us? Depending on the seeds we plant, consciousness moves toward one of the six realms. They are not only physical places, they are also state of mind. The higher realms, God, demigod, and humans, are shaped by virtue, pleasure, and pride. The lower realms, animals, hungry ghosts, and hells, are shaped by ignorance, greed, and anger. None of these realms are permanent. They are all guest houses. The goal of Dharma practice is not to find a better guest house, but to step off the wheel entirely. So, how can we prepare for our future? To truly understand rebirth, we may need a paradigm shift. Think of Galileo. Before the telescope, everyone knew the sun revolved around the earth. It is a common sense. In 1610, when Galileo looked through his lens and proposed that the earth moved around the sun, the old worldview collapsed. Although Galileo paid a heavy personal price, his insight becomes a black swan, one that laid the foundation for modern science. Today, we stand at a similar crossroad. We can remain within the familiar material model, or we can stay open to discovering the true place of consciousness in the universe. And this is topic 6. For centuries, people believed that Earth was flat. Sailors feared if they traveled too far, they would fall off the cliff. Only through courage, navigation, and exploration was this belief overturned. They landed at the New World. This too was a black swan, one that revealed a far larger world. Dharma practice invites us to make a similar journey, to move from the flat view of single lifetime to the perspective, an ongoing journey shaped by wisdom and intention. History teaches us something important. Progress is rarely driven by ordinary expected data. It is driven by outliners. A single unexpected observation can overturn the entire worldview. Black Swan changed how we understand birds, the earth, the cosmos itself. In the same way, unusual cases of consciousness invite us to reconsider what we believe is possible. We do have a choice. This understanding offers us an extraordinary opportunity. If our actions leave traces beyond this life, then nothing wholesome we do is ever wasted. Every act of patience, every moment of meditation, every kind word is an investment in our future. Rebirth is not about who we once were. It is about who we are becoming right now. We all know such a teaching. Even over 100,000 years, karma once created never perishes. When causal conditions converge, the result returns to its creator. This image shows a seed from the Ice Age, over 32,000 years old, germinating in a modern laboratory. Karma works the same way. A seed waits patiently for the right condition to sprout. This is not a threat. It is a natural law, one that allows us to become gardeners of our own destiny. Look at this image of the Buddha against the vastness of the cosmos. More than 2,500 years ago, without telescope, without satellite, without machine worth billions, the Buddha perceived what he called the 3,000-fold universe. On the night of his awakening in Bodhgaya, he saw his countless past lives unfolded like a film played in reverse. He did not share this to impress us. He shared it to liberate us. This is the union of wisdom, seeing reality clearly, and compassion, caring for beings still wandering in confusion. Most importantly, the Buddha declared every sentient being possessed the same innate, luminous Buddha nature, waiting to be uncovered, just as he uncovered his. So this is the way of life. If we look closely, we notice something easily missed. That's the upper part. If we enlarge it, at upright, a Buddha point toward the exit. At upper left, a Bodhisattva extends a helping hand to guide us. Yes, rebirth may be cyclical, but the cycle is not a prison. Through wisdom and compassion, liberation is possible. The exit has always been there, waiting for us to recognize our own luminous nature. In Sanskrit, the title Buddha means the awakened one. The Chan master Yongjia wrote upon his realization. In dreams, the six realms clearly exist. Upon awakening, The great cosmos is empty. This is the ultimate exit. As long as we cling to a solid, separate self, the dream continues. When we awaken to our true nature, the wheel stops turning. This awakening is not extinction. It is peace beyond birth and death. So we come to the conclusion of this presentation. We'd like to conclude it with our highest aspiration as practitioners. Transcending the cycle of rebirth, yet never abandoning sentient beings. Like the Bodhisattvas, our study and practice of Dharma are not only for personal peace, but to help every fellow travelers find their way home. Let us take a slow, relaxing breath together. Let us dedicate the merit of this session to the happiness and awakening of all beings. Thank you for walking this path with me today. Hello, so we are open for your questions and insight. Please share them. If anybody had a question, you could open your mic. If not, we have some questions collected. Maybe we could go over the list first. Anybody can ask questions later on. One common question is, must I accept rebirth to practice Buddhism? Do you worry about this question? No, I think it is no, definitely. While rebirth is a traditional pillar of Buddhist cosmology, many modern practitioners, they're called the secular Buddhists, focus on, like, they practice mindfulness, ethics, and compassion to reduce suffering in this life without signing a contract regarding the next one. And we can always practice sincerity while keeping this as an open question. Because Buddhism values experience over belief. Any question? Christina, everything okay?
I have a question.
And Lucy, yes. Please speak louder. It's a little bit quite soft.
Yeah. Is it better? Is it better?
Yeah, I think this is better. Yes, definitely.
Okay. So, I think, I have a question on this, the first one, that must I accept the rebirth? Because a teacher, I think a Ngakpa teacher, I cannot pronounce his name correctly, but I saw this one of his videos, and it was a very short one. Maybe it was a part of a longer one, but as much as I heard, he said that rebirth is only there if you believe in it, like, our perception, like our aggregate as perception. So if you believe in rebirth, then you will have a rebirth. Otherwise, you won't be having rebirth if you don't believe in rebirth. So he said something in this way. I paraphrased it. So any thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes we wish we believe we are healthy, we don't want to get sick, but we get sick anyway. So as we seen in this presentation, there are scientific cases suggesting the continuation of rebirth, but it is not like other scientific experiment you could prove with numbers and so on and so forth. So it's just like you drop the glass, it will fall. Okay. Here we take, if we cannot see it, the verification of, the certainty, the first is by direct observation, second is by inference, the third one is by scripture authority or the sayings of the enlightened ones. Here, you could consider all the evidence, all the cases we discussed here, or we rely on Buddha's words. And he clearly, at the night of enlightenment, he saw his past life, just like thousands of past lives. So something is there. We remain open to it, but we cannot dismiss it or just say it's not there because we don't believe it. I think it's better to remain open-minded. That's I would say. It's not necessary. If you don't believe it, maybe your consciousness, you could just reject it. And then maybe one day we become omniscient, we can know what's exactly going on.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Did I answer your question? Okay. So because move to the second question is no more. Does rebirth contradict the teachings of no self? Okay. I think if it's a contradiction, we think rebirth means a soul, but in the beginning we already discussed Buddhism does not believe a fixed permanent self continues. What continues is a process, like a flame lighting another candle. So this continuity is without identity. So no self reject a thing that reincarnate, but it does not deny causal continuity. Like the stream of consciousness is not the same, but not completely different either. Okay. So the third questions, under this report case, anti-science. But in scientific skepticism is healthy. Okay. Science begins with observation, especially observation that don't fit existing models. These cases didn't claim a proof. They just flag questions that current theory struggle to explain. Science actually progressed by investigation and usual cases. Ignoring data because it's uncomfortable is unscientific. So this report is not anti-science because suspending judgment is not the same as believing. Because we need more observations or more meditation, maybe. Yeah. Any question? The fourth one is, why do many rebirth memory involve trauma or violence? In psychology, we know that intensity creates imprint, just as we remember a car accident more vividly than what we ate lunch 3 years ago. So rebirth may suggest unfinished business or emotional shock of a violent death leave a strong trace on the stream of consciousness. That's one example. But this doesn't mean rebirth is about suffering. It reflects how memory works, not what life is for. So, the fifth question. Are phobias or attraction really from past lives? Do you believe in this? Anyway. Sometimes, but not always, I think. Buddhism does not reduce everything to past lives because causes can be genetic, psychological, social, or karmic. Rebirth is suggested only when other explanation fails, like Dr. Stevenson in his cases. Past lives are only one possible layer, not a universal answer. Any question? Do you sometimes feel you have past memories? Shall we move to the next one?
I just want to add something. I feel kind of, I mean, this is my personal opinion that, um, like there are really unexplained things in everybody's life. And if we kind of like pay a little bit of attention, I won't say like rebirth or previous life or something, but there is some kind of imprint that, mm, if anyone contemplates a little bit, I think it kind of comes out like, unexplained things, really. So, and mostly I think, I've seen a lot of children, they kind of are more attuned to this than adults, obviously. Yeah, I kind of believe in that. Maybe, I don't know, like a rebirth, there are different aspects of rebirth, as in like a how consciousness moves, how the imprint goes on, and so much details about it. I don't know much, but I, yeah, something stays on. I believe that through experience.
Yeah, even identical twins, the twins, they're supposed to get a whole complete, exactly similar copy of DNA from the parents, but their propensity, their talent or their what they like or what they don't like are very different. Some similarity, but they are still different person. So not everything can be decided by genetics, the DNA, or the environment. They grow up in the same family, cared by the same parents, but they have different personalities and likes and dislikes or talents, different areas. So we need a third factor to decide what all these traits come from. Yeah. And some of the marks, some of the birthmarks, especially, when baby come out, we may see some blue, a big blue mark on the tummy or something, and then they might have hidden story behind, but not necessarily a traumatic death in that. And also people wondered, also these the children with memories, they started talking like when they started talk about the past life, but they forget, like when they 6 or 7 year old, because by that time they started accumulating information in the brain, and which override the more subtle memories from past life. They just fade. So if children talk about past life, mostly they don't remember after a while. Yeah, that's one of the case. Yeah.
Because you're discussing this part, can I ask a question in the middle?
Sure, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question would be, yeah, the question is like, how does this memory forms, like the physical memory, like you said, it overrides when kids are like a little bit older, then the new memories they form, they override the past ones, but the past ones still, until the exhaustion of their karma, the past one still lives there somewhere in the background, right? Although the fresh memory is kind of visible to everybody and to the child also. But then, how does this underlying karma still stays on with or without memory? So the connection between, the consciousness and the memory, I think that's what I want to hit here.
So when we say memory, we usually refer to our brain, that in our head. different regions doing different things. But as I was mentioned earlier, that we have countless karmic seeds. Everything, every deeds, every speech, every words, and every thought planted seed in our alaya, storehouse consciousness. They're buried there and waiting for the conditions, right, right condition, and then the seed will sprout. So we're talking two things here. One thing is about the trauma of past life, death, then manifested as birthmark in the next life. Okay, somehow it worked, the consciousness somehow work on the fetus development. That's what scientists could not explain. Okay. The other thing we mentioned very deep in our consciousness is like many, many different memory buried in our consciousness. It wait to be conditioned to ripen, such as we meet our friends, our partners, or we're born in such a family. That's our past seed ripen. So as far as this trauma, how deep it's buried, it can manifest in the next life, as a birthmark, but it can also bury deeper and manifest slowly in daily lives or in each life, just not as a dramatic as a birthmark, but as our inclination, our intelligence. Someone's very good at piano. Maybe he played piano many lifetimes again, and already something like that. So they are also buried in the alaya and then just waiting to be sprouted. That's the case. Did I answer my question? Your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim raised the hand.
Kim, please talk.
Yes. One thing is to add to the liar's consciousness. I went to the course. I went to a 5 days retreat. In the very last Dharma talk, the sister gave a very good lectures or tutorial or lessons on store consciousness. She actually told us a stories of about a group of mountaineers. They planned to climb Mount Everest, and they were advised not to climb the mountain if they did not reach a certain level by 4 p.m. But this group of mountaineers, they had planned, and they didn't come back even though they didn't arrive that particular height at by 4 p.m. They continue their journey to continue their journeys climbing the Mount Everest. And in the end, these groups of mountaineers didn't come back. They die on their way up to the Mount Everest. And the sister says that she said it's very dangerous. Sometimes it could be dangerous to have a plan because she said Buddha Shakyamuni has already taught us that whether a goal can be achieved or not, it's already there in the store consciousness. So whether or not they could achieve as planned, climbed to the top, to climb to the summit of Mount Everest is already there. So she said, so there is no, so even though we want something to happen, it's not up to us to decide, to determine whether it would happen or not. So it's not just memory. To come back to the question, it's not just memory store in the store consciousness. It's a seed of karma plant there perhaps eons ago, and now it's ripened. When it comes to this point, whether or not they could achieve the goal, it's already there. So what my point is, it's not a memory. It's a store consciousness. It's not just a memory like what we are thinking right now. We remember what happened yesterday. It is about everybody's interbeings, interrelationship. So it's not just me, it's my connections with everyone there. Whether or not we could climb up as well, is everyone all together, joined together as interbeings. It's coming together to create a conditions due to the cause of seeds planted in the store consciousness eons ago, and people interacting one another to come out as a result. It's not just a memory stored as a piece of memory. It is just it's all conditions come together of the conditions come together as as interbeings. I don't know whether I could explain it clearly. Do you think I explained it clearly? I'm not so good, but it was quite interesting what she told us. So the store consciousness storing those seeds is not just a memory of an individual. It is when the conditions comes together, interbeings conditions come together, and it ripens, and it leadings to the result. So it's not just simply a piece of memories from the past or past actions from the past. It's just interbeing, interconnected with one another. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Okay, I think we are speaking
I
to,
wanna, sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
I wanna add a few more things for Lucy's question and what Kim said. Karma, when we say karma, is not meaning karma cannot change, right? So every action, our body, mind, speech will change our karma. So like if we have a bad seed, we're waiting. It's like we're waiting for someday the seeds are gonna ripen and it will give us some result, right? But we also can have good karma, right? So if we do good deed, it eventually probably changed our bad seeds we planted eons ago, right? That's also the dependent origination. What Buddha taught, the most important is if we plant good seeds, if we do good deed, then we'll have a good result. And this is one thing. So when we say override, doesn't mean override exactly the karma. It's all good karma will change the bad karmic seeds. Also, we have the tool for purification, right? We also purify, then we don't have that much bad karma anymore. Another thing is when we say karma also have a lot of categories, kind of karma, right? So that was a different topic. Some karma is easy to purify. Some karma is not that easy. So we have to have different method. That's why the teaching, the Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism teaching comes to play. So how to purify our karma, how to accumulate the good karma, right? That's the more questions. Yeah. Thank you. That's I want to share.
So Kim, I think let's talk about the seeds, everything we did and so forth, planted in the storehouse, and then it condition ripen, it sprout. Okay, so but this is also ongoing for, as Christina pointed out, karma is what we have now, but what we are doing now could change direction. So for instance, you want to drive from place A to B, and there is a traffic jam there. You could keep on waiting there. Also, but also you can take another route to take that. So we still have the power to do what we're meeting at this moment, and which determine our future, which may change what was original the blueprint there. Okay, so this talk about mutable karma and immutable karma. Okay, our practice of trying to make immutable karma into mutable karma. So how strong is this seed, and how power, how good we can purify it? How the strength of karma depends on 4 factors. First is your strength of intention. If you kill somebody with very strong hatred, or you carelessly step on an ant, the intention is totally different. And second, repetition. Do you keep on doing the same thing? You see this person, every time you see aversion arises your mind, and so on and so forth. You keep on building that up. Repetition builds up the power of the karma. And also the object of your actions. If you speak very rudely, say to Buddha, or you speak to rudely, to a dog, the effect totally, or you make offering to the Buddha and offering to an ant, because the Buddha is such a heavy object of reverence. So what an action toward a higher beings create stronger karma. And the 4th factor, if this action, if the numbers have we regretted or repentant, and so forth. So these 4 factors depend how powerful is our karma manifesting. And there's rooms to maneuver. It's not definitely say, oh, if you cannot climb here, Mount Everest, you will never make it. It's maybe there's immutable karma there, but very obviously they're not following the rules. They are making a detour that causes that own destruction. So it's a very dynamic process. And that's what we just said. Karma is about now, not what we were before, but what we are becoming. We have the power. Maybe not, some of the very strong past karma difficult, but still we can change it. Yeah. A little by little, or maybe very powerfully by strong repentance, we could change the fate, so-called. Yeah. Thank you. Thank for Christina, and thank for Kim's question. So where were we? Number 7? I think we discussed this before. If I lived before, why don't I remember it? Oh, okay. Yeah. So do we still believe what you ate for dinner for like 3 months ago? Not likely, is it? We already forgot most of this life. So we don't remember infancy. We forgot dreams minutes after awakening. So memory depends on conditions, and that is a major interruption. So you just say it's considered a massive, it's like a system reset. Okay. Our current memory is stored in our physical brain, which is new. And the memory discussed in rebirth is more subconscious, muscle memory, and the character trait, not again, it might not be, we don't remember, we just, that's a human nature because we forget, that's it. Yeah. And there's but upon very traumatic situation like those with birthmarks, and the children remember because the power of that incident is so powerful, the deeply ingrained in their subconsciousness, we could say subconscious in this modern words, and then it manifests as a birthmark in their body. So number 8, why does Buddhism care about rebirth? But not only Buddhism cares about rebirth, about future life or whatever continual existence is there. And I think one thing is because our human, talk about religion, they like to know what happening after death. For Buddhism, because the ethics make more sense to more than one lifetime, and also practice make more sense than one lifetime. If we have about 80, 100 years life, and a very little time is spent on Dharma, and then we die, and then that's at the end of it, then there's no way to achieve nirvana. If we don't make it this life, that's the end. And that's a shame, really. Okay. So by this rebirth, we can work continuously. Maybe there's some interruption, but sometimes we come back. We met the teacher somehow. We met the Dharma somehow. And our teacher always said this is because our previous karma connection or the merit we accumulate, that we have the opportunity to meet the Dharma and to realize how precious this life so precious and so forth. Okay. So, and also rebirth expand the horizon of responsibility and compassion. If the life is only one dislike, and then that's why we see so many incidents of mass killing, and people, by hatred, whatever reason, they just shoot people for no reason, and then they commit suicide themselves. They think, okay, that's the end. I finished what I want to do, but they don't know this heavy karma going to accompany them on and on, and there's a different karmic factor, like causes your similar to the action, similar to the effect, and so on and so forth, or your living environment is going to continue. Okay, so by that, maybe there's some ethic power in there to let people stop doing unreasonable things. Okay. And then, of course, from the positive side, we keep on practicing, and then liberation matters, and we could continue to practice, and then not to end just the end of this life. That's no more chance. Okay. But without rebirth, Buddhism still works psychologically, and with rebirth, and then it becomes easy for ethically, and for liberation is more become hopeful. That's the case. Okay. Why did the chat too? Christina, could you check the chat for me?
Yes. Chat. That's it. What Jensen said something.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no more question.
Okay, good. Okay, so then let's move to the number 8. Number 9. Isn't liberation escaping life? Okay. It's actually liberation is escaping from confusion, not escaping existence. Okay. Liberation is freedom within life, not rejecting it. Enlightened beings continue to act, help, and care. Okay. I mean, if it's escaping, it's become nihilism. Rejecting it is rejected in Buddhism. And liberation means clarity and compassion. Liberation is not disappearing, but awakening to the truth. So that's a totally different aspect than escaping life. Liberation is escaping delusion, you could say that, okay? Nirvana is not the place you go to hide from life. It is state of being where you are no longer driven by craving, hatred, and ignorance. We are not escaping life. We are escaping suffering. Okay. Number 10, what if I remain unsure about rebirth? What do you think? I think Buddhists say this is completely acceptable. Okay. The Buddhism, actually, honest uncertainty is good. Maybe you keep on trying to find the answer. Okay. But we can still practice ethics. We could still do our meditation, and we could cultivate and reveal our own inner nature, our own truth, wisdom, without looking at metaphysical beliefs. I mean, you could say this belief in rebirth is metaphysical rebirth belief. Yeah. Buddhism just asks for openness, not agreement. And then we keep on studying and exploring. Insight will unfold over time. Yeah. And our practice does not begin with belief. It begins with sincere practices.
Kim has a question.
Okay, please.
I think it is a good start to actually come up with questions of whether or not rebirth exists, because for some people they do not believe rebirth completely. But if one actually comes to a point that they start questions whether rebirth exists, but unsure about rebirth, and this is a good starting point. Um, there is a good merits there indicating. That's all I want to say. And yeah, as we learned Gondro, from the first chapter, freedom, right? For practicing, whether or not we have faith is it's a merit. It's one of the criteria in the freedoms, right? So it's a karmic. Well, there is nothing we could do about it, but what we do is recitations, accumulating and dedicating merits from the Buddhist perspective. But other than that, I don't think we could do anything. But all we could do is accumulating merits and dedicate merits.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
all.
Right. So actually about this, someone not unsure about rebirth, the Buddha has said something in the Kalama Sutra. And he said, if there is a rebirth, your good action now will help you later. If there's no rebirth, you still lived a happy, virtuous life, respected by others, right here and right now. So either way, you win or we win. So that's, I think the most important thing is to keep our mind open. Okay.
One point. When I remember last year went to Hong Kong and I met we went to a monastery. We talked to a monk and he gave my son a piece of advice about his age. At his age, 10 to 12 years old, very young, and he told my son to be a good boy and to be a good person, to exercise his to do good things out of conscience. Also, I think as parents, we need to teach young children that law of law the laws of cause and effect, a law of karma exist. And that's what I learned from the monk last year. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Another thing is that, some people might ask, what is a stream consciousness? I mean, if there's no self in Buddhism, I think there's some explanation is like think of it like a movie. A movie is not just one solid thing. It is a series of individual picture frames passing in front of a light. Not a single frame is the movie, but because they're played in consequence, they create a coherent stories. So in Buddhism, our intention and actions create seeds in the stream of consciousness that sprout when the conditions are right in the next life. And then it's almost like we have one frame after the other, create the story all our continuous life from this stream of consciousness, from these individual picture frames of a movie. That's us. That's another way. Others explain, make analogy like the candlelight, lighting another candle, or like a river that's running, the water not exactly same, not different, but not exactly same. That's called stream of consciousness. That's the Buddhist tenets. Yeah. Thank you. Any more questions? And some people ask if there's a rebirth, why the increasing global population keep on increasing. We have more and more people. If there's a fixed amount, actually, that's because with the Buddha didn't talk about only human beings recycle, in the cyclic existence. It's 6 realms and all other cosmic system. So it could come from the other galaxies, our neighbors and so forth, or that's a much larger scale. It's cosmic scale. It's not just a human one. Yeah.
I have a kind of strange thought on this, and it's can you hear me clearly?
Yes, please. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, this is a bizarre thought, and probably you guys might laugh on it. And it's kind of on the back of my mind. Every time I'm thinking about rebirth or this karma, like life after life of karma, this kind of thought crosses my mind. Like if, say, this is not a soul reincarnation, right? But then we have from previous lives some bunch of our karmic imprints that must be flowering in some other planet or some other environment that like this there might be beings. This is completely my imagination now. So there might be beings who might be like in kind of in between the worlds. So they might have their previous memories or previous imprints not able to I don't know, like and the new life in a different environment. So this kind of transitioning phase. So I don't know, like it kind of sounds like Bardo, but then like if the karmic imprints are not complete from the previous life, and then they encounter a different world or different realm altogether, how confusing that might be for that mind. So this is just a bizarre movie style thought on the how next life can work out for good or bad.
It is real bizarre. But actually, there's a movie, I think, by Michelle Yao about multiverse, her experience. It's very interesting. I think she's one Best Actress Oscar for her acting in that movie. Yeah, so I think it's possible. Our mind is just so complicated. I think that's why we need to train it to meditate and to study Dharma, and then know our mind or consciousness as it is. Actually, the ultimate goal is to reveal our Buddha nature, our innate true nature. That's it. That's what our efforts for. Thank you so much.
Can I add one thing here?
Okay.
Yeah. Fortune telling, right? I know you don't, I know many tutors, they talks about, because don't talk about fortune tellings because we're now Buddhists, we shouldn't go into those details. But I need to say that I've been, before I became a Buddhist, because my parents does that, and in our culture it's quite common. And the fortune teller actually laid out a path of my path ahead, and the people around me, the path ahead, and they actually manifest, even though when they're 20, 30 years ago, and it slowly, one by one, even the timing, the people. So when we talk about whether rebirth exists, whether karma or the conditions and cause now in this life driven the interbeings together as a group, whether those karma manifest, it's it's already there. So, but still, we can still change it as long as we have the right intention. But uh, the calculations from the ancient wisdom, they did actually manage to calculate this using mathematics, because the woman keep telling me it's only mathematics, it's nothing magical, it's mathematics based on all this ancient wisdom. And but it did actually manifest year after years, and yeah, and but it changed. We can still change the course, such as if we know, well, what I'm saying is karma from the previous life, from eons and eons of life exist, and rebirth exists when cause and conditions and the conditions driven interbeings together. It means it will manifest the way it should be according to the previous karma, karmic seeds. But we could still um, uh, act using the best intention we could, and uh, and because the mercy of Buddha, they give us mantra and all those uh, merciful purification mantras to purify our past negative karma. But then again, we could still, but it's there, it's already there. What I'm saying is the karmic conditions they driven into beings together for this life can be could use maths to work out how it could possibly manifest, but we need to use our best intention to act accordingly. And also out because of the mercy of Buddha, uh, uh, and all those purification mantras, sutras, we could embrace this life and the life coming after by practicing the Dharma. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. Actually, fortune telling is, there are some reason. I mean, basic there. Actually, they look at, because we are so connected with the cosmos. So where we born, what hour and what stars and so forth, they can predict something. But it's just patterns, common patterns that fortune tellers is telling. I think we all know a famous Chinese story about Liao Fan. He's a scholar. When he was young, he met a really, really good fortune teller, I mean, famous fortune teller. Tell him at what year you're going to be disposed, receiving how many salaries, and so on and so forth. But he also included you will not live beyond 50 and you will never have a son. So he become like, and then after the time ended, whatever the fortune tellers said seems turned true. So he become like, desperate, not desperate, just like not doing anything, not just, silently await his fate until a Chan master said, "Oh my gosh, you just believe this, you can do something. It's in your hand. It's a fluid." So he started doing accumulating very different virtuous actions and so forth, and really work hard to watch his mind and so forth. So anyway, to make a long story short, eventually he lives into the 80s and he had the sons and so forth. And he wrote his experience as a variant of Liao Fan Sizhen in Chinese. So this is actually living examples that the karma can be redirected with our effort, because it's ongoing process. So even fortune teller, the fortune teller, you could see that they usually tell the past pretty correctly, but what they say in the future sometimes, might not as accurate as what they say in the past. Yeah. Okay, I think our time is up. Thank you so much for your attending, and then I hope we learn something, or we have some new perspective, or keep our mind open to study what might be beyond our capacity now. But we have all these tools in our hand with Dharma. So let's rejoice in our opportunity, and thank you again for your participation. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming here. If you have any question, you can always post on the chat. We could we could also keep on discussing. Okay. Thank you.
Take care.